Christina Weedling, Speech 101, Informative Speech. Growing up on a farm, I had to do a lot of different things, but I think the most memorable thing that I had to do, or that I learned to do, was actually make maple syrup. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. My family and I actually did make the maple syrup the old-fashioned way. We didn't have pipeline or any easy way to actually get the sap from the trees. We had buckets where we actually tapped the trees, and the sap went into the buckets, and then we gathered it. I was a teenager at the time, and I have to say that I did not like this process at all. It took up a lot of my personal time with friends and boyfriends. Not to mention that I usually had a lot of sap that had gotten spilled on me just because I was trying to go so fast with trying to collect it all. My family and I actually tapped probably around 600 maple trees. What we would do would be to screw in what we call the taps, and this is what would allow the sap to flow from the tree into the bucket. And we'd hang the bucket from the tap, and we would let this set overnight and let it collect in the bucket till we had enough where we could actually pour it into the vats or containers. And how we did this was we had a tractor and a trailer, and we put the vats on the trailer, went up to the hill, and actually poured the sap into the big vats. After we were finished, we'd take these vats full of sap down to what we called a sugar shanty, where we would process and actually boil the sap into syrup. Now it usually takes, depending on how much sap that you have, it would make, at least a couple of gallons. So, and that depends greatly on how long you'd have to boil the sap in order to find out how much and how long it would take. Once we collect all the sap into the vats, we would pour it into a bigger vat, which boiled it, and the temperature would have to be right around 213 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, in doing this, you had to make sure that it was actually 213 degrees or right around there, because if it was too low, it wouldn't boil the sap in enough to make it into syrup, and if it was too high, it would actually burn the syrup. We did this in the springtime for about 1 week to 2 weeks, depending on how warm or cold the weather was. And the weather had to be right around 40 degrees during the day and freezing at night. And that was in order to let the sap run really good. Once we sat down and boiled it and got the syrup to where it should be, we had a little spout where we could go ahead and turn it on and off and put the pints or the gallons, buckets that we had to store the sap in, and we would put it up for sale. Probably the most memorable thing that I learned through this experience was probably just that we were able to toast a lot of hot dogs on the coals, and also just the smell of the sap. There is nothing like smelling the sap on a spring night. This experience taught me a lot of responsibility, and I really enjoyed it. However, it's very hard work to do, and like I said before, being a teenager, it wasn't the most pleasant thing to do. There was other things that I would have much rather have been doing at the time, and I can't tell you how many times I tried to collect the sap so fast that it actually spilled all the way down me, and I was soaking wet, and that stuff was really cold. This is the process in which my family and I made maple syrup, and I hope that I've given you an insight on how to do it.